This session, I'll be welcoming Andrew and Lauren, who will be talking about the SVS tool. Andrew's the owner of Agrilink, and Lauren is in her final year at the University of Waikato and was a summer intern at Te Ahikawariki.
Right, welcome everyone. Glorious day outside, so I thought if it had been raining we would have had more people, but we've got standing room only. I've decided that it's clearly warm outside. Great. You'd like to have a lot of build up pep talk before you speak. Told me if you don't open up the windows, Andrew, they'll all be asleep before you finish. Look, welcome along. This is a trial that we ran, that Lauren ran out here at the research station. It's about sort of better understanding of soil nitrogen and being able to unlock some of the tools that we've got. I'm going to do a bit of a background about sort of why we did the work, and then Lauren's going to take the majority and explain what we found. So soil nitrogen testing. One of the really big aspects that we talk about is measured numbers, right? And so, of course, as soon as you start having measured numbers, then you've got to be able to trust those. And I've done a few talks about the SVS tool, and one of the mantras I talk about is that a measured number beats a modelled number every time. You need the modelled number, you need the tool, this SVS tool, which we'll talk about, but the idea of the tool itself is put in soil nitrogen, and then it's about building that confidence. The tool itself, the SVS decision support tool, and again, whenever I talk about it, I underline that word support. It's not a decision tool. It doesn't make the decisions on soil nitrogen for you, but it helps you your decision making in regards to nitrogen fertilizer application. And there at the end, I just talked about if you've got a model, you project it out into the future. The advantage of this particular tool, which we'll look at, is that you then override that with a measure, right? Nobody is growing in an average season, right? So all models invariably are based on an average season. Aren't too many growers will say. Benefit of what we're doing with regards to soil monitoring, soil nitrogen monitoring, is you can override that model with this. So the SVS decision support tool. This is what it is. Free plug. It's freely available. It's online. svstool.co.nz. But this is where you land. And essentially, the tool itself is a nitrogen budget. Nitrogen budgets are just like a financial budget. It's how much, what's coming in, what's going out, what's your income, what's your expenditure, how much nitrogen is coming into leaving the system. Breaking it down, there's a whole lot of nitrogen sitting in the system. What we're looking at here is the black dotted line is the amount of soil nitrogen that's in the system as the crop grows. That's projected. In this particular case, we've gone and set the crop up. It's a carrot crop, a 70-ton carrot crop, projected into the future about what the nitrogen and fertilizer needs are, and then, like I say, the black dotted line where the model go. Where Lauren's work came in is understanding, well, okay, not an average season, so what's the nitrogen, what's happening in the current season. What we've shown here is an example of actually, look, the soil nitrogen is higher, that little dot, higher than what the model expected. There could be a whole range of reasons for that. Warmer and wetter than usual, there's been more soil mineralization perhaps, and so actually there's more nitrogen in the soil. Therefore, as you go through the season, there's a decision to be made. this particular case, there was a fertiliser plan. There's an intention to apply some nitrogen fertiliser as a side dressing. Because that nitrogen was higher in the soil than anticipated, the grower was able to pull that back. However, pulling that nitrogen back is quite scary, right? Nitrogen is also a very good way of being able to sleep at night. So to be able to have confidence to pull back, you need to have confidence are reasonably robust. So again, the work that Lauren's done is looking at how do we improve our confidence. I talk a lot about measured numbers. Measured numbers being better than model. They are they're the real situation that's in front of the plant, in front of the grower at the time. But the trouble with a measured number, of course, is also there's lots and lots of variables. The soil texture, topography, drainage across the paddock, a sampler technique varies, soil depth. Literally, how many cores have you gone and taken? How representative is that sample? Nitrogen distribution, even. Glorious days like today is just the temperature that sample is then collected at and sent down to a lab. All these things. It is the last two things, though, that we focus on with Lauren is what does the nitrogen look like? What does the level of nitrogen look like post fertilizer application? So how variable is that nitrogen fertilizer, or how variable is that soil nitrogen post the fertilizer application? And then we did a piece of work on the lab test quick nitrogen. Those not familiar with the quick nitrogen test, it was developed as a way to literally, as the name says, to take a quick test. It doesn't have to go to the lab. It's done in-house, rounded cost. So improving our confidence in the measured number. So the two variables that time since application. So the ideal time to test your soil before making a decision for the fertilizer applied. That's not necessarily always the case in terms of, if you've got a quick rotation crop, there can be side dressings can go on pretty quickly. So how quickly can you go back and take that soil test? The other thing that we looked at, and that was part of the thinking of this, is if I take my soil test and actually something's happened like rain, how confident can I be that the testing done is actually taken into account? And then the other aspect that Lauren's going to talk about is the lab versus the quick test. Our next speaker, Lauren, all the work that she's done.
What the nitrogen. The quick test was the luck and the super, and then is what did versus we did this here on farm, so we by form nitrate fertilizer at a rate because it represents didn't have because it added out the variables that we added versus our house was 15 where we had all that. And for this one, I got 6 scores per treatment, 36 scores every soil, 4 days. Got that sort to make sure. Back to for the probe, I had to, that you can see the blue stand here. It was somewhat easy, but it does complicate. But after you've calibrated it, you can just clear fraction above the soil and add that onto. Gives you a quantitative number, so correct number parts per million. And then scale on the parts per million. Then after I'd done everything, I bagged up all accurate. In terms of our results, did by each of the down the bottom. The first time we applied the fertilizer, we had 0.9 rain right after within the, and that resulted in all of the nitrogen straight away. 4 days after testing, this any nitrification is a max reached away, and this didn't really give us how on, but it does reinforce how nitrate compound it's negative. It's in your for this application, had a bit of this rain. We had days, a bit drier straight applied data out of this. Applied the fertilizer. Full results. So we have greens that are this likely the high peaks under hills that got in the fertilizer. The prill high false, and then in low areas like with likely with fertilizer. Days after we that green. However, these variables, closer together, the best post fertilizer that night got into our soil. There was enough time and more for nitrification to occur, for those prills to dissolve. Past the green, so fine. Past this, you're going to be underestimating. Actually, in terms of cultivation effect, the graph is pretty clear. There wasn't any difference significant between bedded and the reservoir systems. So this is good. You don't really cultivation type into fertilizing under the in terms of or no difference nitrogen for both the fertilized plots, so both the bedded and the reservoir, the was pretty much profile. However, in the control, we did have upper levels of soil. This is because have nitrification. However, in water, it's pretty much about. Again, it's a bad thing. But the quick bit complicated. It's just tough. So the orange line represents perfect correlation. All of our data along the results that we got from labs match the results. And we tested. You can see light blue is when iron meter Te strips, and they cluster well at low concentration. But as that concentration, they get the gap looks pretty big, but they were still pretty. We had them, so it doesn't discard them as methods for testing. It just that they're not exact replacement laboratory. For just putting that same information process. The Hill labs are highly precise and accurate. However, the downside to this is that they're slower and they're quite expensive. Put your sample in 1 to 2 weeks. So if you quick decision, fertilizer application, you can, which is not for both the Laqua strips. Obviously, they're quick. For the Laqua, also written number. However, you did calibrate it slightly more. For the strips, fastest, arguably. However, they are making the result, but overall, they're cost effective and they're the strip is probably the twin iron meter. So if you pair your strips with this combination plan as or you apply fertilizer, so your Hill Labs test that application and then strips how that fertilizer oil. That's the so that's me just going. Was no different cultivation type in terms of nitrate availability. 14 days after I applied the fertilizer, so this represents some good so however soil type, climate, etc. And then fields are really plan. Then a sort of overriding whether soil is that nitrogen is so mobile and patient processes are also highly climate. So 2 takeaways from weather that you should not apply your fertilizer. Got heavy casted first application bleached away, and the flip side, you should wait until there's adequate drills, or else you're going to get variable as we saw. Then of course James over the summer there was young from all of the prep work trial and also of course with developing the methodology for this